What really happened to Bad Chad and Jolene McIntyre? One moment, they were the power couple of the custom car world-building wild rides, running a family shop, and starring on television together. The next, Jolene was gone, and rumors started flying. Now, whispers of a new marriage and a mystery woman are spreading fast. Is Bad Chad really moving on this quickly? And what's the full story behind his shocking love life after Jolene? Fans have been asking for months, and the truth is tangled up in a story wilder than any car he's ever built. This is the man who went from small-town Nova Scotia to global television screens. From getting fired at every job to turning boat parts and airplane scraps into jaw-dropping custom cars. Along the way, he's collected awards, enemies, and more than a few broken hearts. But behind the cameras and the chrome, Chad's personal life has been a rollercoaster teenage marriage, public breakups, that fiery romance with Jolene, and now, rumors of a brand new wife. So what really happened? And how did a kid who once sold a hockey card to buy his first car become one of the most talked about builders in the world? What exactly did Bad Chad say about his new wife? Stay tuned because the last detail will leave you speechless. When Bad Chad Customs first hit Discovery in 2019, most people didn't know what to expect. Car shows were nothing new. Texas alone was already overflowing with flashy builds, big budgets, and larger-than-life personalities. But then came Chad Hills, rolling in from a small shop in Nova Scotia with a style that looked nothing like the competition. He didn't have deep-pocket sponsors, a warehouse full of brand new parts, or a crew of 50 mechanics. What he did have was a welding torch, an imagination that wouldn't quit, and the nerve to use whatever he could get his hands on. Boat parts, airplane panels, old lockers, nothing was off limits. If it fit, he'd use it. If it didn't fit, he'd make it fit. And viewers loved it. While other shows polished their builds until they looked like they'd rolled off a luxury car lot, Bad Chad Customs was raw, scrappy, and unpredictable. Every episode felt like watching a high-wire act. No safety net, no blueprint, just sheer creativity under pressure. What really set it apart was the philosophy. Chad wasn't trying to win over millionaires looking for pristine restorations. He was building for the people who believed beauty could come from anywhere, even the junkyard. And in a television world obsessed with big money, that made him stand out like a neon sign in a dark street. But to understand why Bad Chad Customs works the way it does, you have to know where Chad Hills comes from, and that story is anything but ordinary. Long before the television cameras showed up, Chad Hills was just a small-town kid in Kingsport, Nova Scotia, a place better known for fishing boats than custom cars. But even as a boy, his world revolved around engines and chrome. His father ran the White Rose Gas Company and kept a yard full of cars. His mother drove a '46 Dodge. And then there was his uncle's pride and joy, a '56 Ford Crown Victoria, the kind of car that would make a young kid stare for hours memorizing every curve. But Chad's first big step into car ownership wasn't exactly glamorous. Legend has it he sold one of his most prized possessions, a hockey card, just to buy a '34 Ford 3-window coupe. To him, that wasn't a sacrifice, it was an investment in a lifelong obsession. Being in Nova Scotia gave him an advantage few builders have: proximity to shipyards. That meant if a project needed a certain curve of metal or a specific type of hardware, Chad could salvage it straight from old boats. It was like a scrapyard treasure hunt, and it's why so many of his builds today feature parts you'd never expect to see on a car. That mix of small-town resourcefulness and a burning love for machinery was already shaping his style, a style that would one day set him apart from every other builder on television. But before he could get there, Chad's early life was about to take a sharp turn, one that would push him into adulthood far faster than he expected. Chad Hills didn't glide through school, he crashed through it. By 16, while most of his classmates were worrying about homework and weekend plans, Chad was already married and raising a child. That meant late nights, early mornings, and a paycheck to chase not textbooks. He dropped out of high school and took a job at a grain mill to keep his young family afloat. But even in the working world, trouble seemed to follow him. He had a temper, and he wasn't afraid to use it. In high school, it had been fights in the hallways. Later, when he enrolled in an automotive course at a local college, the same pattern showed up: another fight, another exit. Holding down steady work wasn't any easier. From a chicken processing plant to a string of short-lived gigs, the outcome was always the same. Chad got fired. Sometimes it was his attitude, sometimes his stubbornness, sometimes just bad luck. But in Chad's own words, he's been fired from every job I ever had. It wasn't the resume of a man destined for success. But those same traits, the refusal to be told what to do, the instinct to fight back, would one day become the driving force behind his biggest victories. And it all started with the thing he knew better than anything else: building cars his way no matter what anyone thought. For most people, getting fired from job after job would be the end of the road. For Chad Hills, it was the start of one. Somewhere along the way, details are hazy. Even for Chad, he crossed paths with Gene Winfield, a legendary customizer whose work had graced Hollywood productions like Blade Runner, RoboCop, and the original Star Trek. Winfield wasn't just a builder. He was an artist who could turn metal into sculpture, and Chad soaked up every lesson he could. Armed with nothing but his own two hands, a tiny budget, and a stubborn streak a mile wide, Chad began creating machines that defied expectation. His first showstopper was the Bat Out of Hell, a 1960 Chrysler Windsor he literally took a saw to, cutting the roof clean off before reimagining it from the ground up. Then came the Green Goblin, a 1962 Chrysler transformed in just 6 months. Doors welded shut, a Cadillac front-wheel drive engine mounted in the back, a roof from a '74 Cutlass grafted onto the front. It wasn't just a car, it was a Frankenstein masterpiece that somehow looked like it had been born that way. These builds didn't just win local admiration. They racked up trophies, 3 awards at Boston's World of Wheels, 4 more at the Castrol Radical Speed Sports Show. Chad had gone from being the guy no one wanted to hire to the guy whose work everyone wanted to see. But even as his reputation in the custom car scene grew, Chad's personal life was just as unpredictable and far more complicated. If Chad Hiltz's cars are known for their twists, turns, and unexpected parts, his love life isn't much different. His first marriage came at just 16, when most people are barely learning to drive. Details about that relationship remain private. Chad rarely talks about it, but it was the beginning of a long, winding trail of breakups, reconciliations, and new beginnings. In 1998, he married Carla Mooring. They had a son, Colton, but the marriage barely lasted a year. By 1999, they were divorced, and Chad was moving on again. Soon after, he met Mandy Mosher, with whom he had a daughter, Harley, in 2004. Harley inherited her dad's fighting spirit, literally winning a local boxing competition in 2070. But as with so many chapters in Chad's personal life, the good times didn't last. The relationship ended, and Chad found himself starting over once again. Then came Jolene McIntyre. Smart, business-savvy, and strikingly beautiful, she wasn't just a partner, she was the reason Chad's world changed. Her Instagram posts of a custom Bugatti Chad was building for her caught the attention of Discovery's producers. Before long, the two were in California pitching a television show and hitting every major promotional stop from SEMA to automotive expos. By 2070, Chad and Jolene were engaged. Fans assumed wedding bells were just around the corner, but over time, cracks began to show. And now, whispers swirl online that Jolene is out of the picture, and Chad might have already moved on to someone new. The truth about that? We'll get to it. But first, you need to meet the other star of Bad Chad Customs, someone who's not in front of the camera nearly as much, but plays a massive role in the empire Chad has built. When Jolene McIntyre walked into Chad Hiltz's life, she didn't just become part of his story, she helped rewrite it. She wasn't another gearhead hanging around the shop. Jolene was sharp, organized, and had the kind of business sense that could take Chad's raw creativity and turn it into something the world could actually see. She quickly stepped in to manage the behind-the-scenes chaos at the shop, handling logistics, keeping schedules, and making sure Chad's wild visions actually made it to the finish line. But it was one specific moment that changed everything. Jolene began posting photos of a custom Bugatti Chad was building for her, a one-off creation that looked like it had been plucked straight from a fantasy film. Those images caught the attention of Discovery Channel's producers, who were scouting for fresh talent in the automotive world. Within weeks, Chad and Jolene were flying to California to meet with network executives. They spent months promoting the concept, hitting SEMA and other big automotive events, selling themselves not just as a builder and a business manager, but as a team. Discovery bought in, and Bad Chad Customs was born. The engagement came in August 2070, and for years, fans saw them as one of Custom Car TV's power couples. Jolene brought polish to Chad's grit, and together they built a brand. But off camera, things weren't always running as smoothly as the show suggested. And now, with Jolene rumored to be out of the picture entirely, fans are asking one question over and over: did Bad Chad already move on to someone else? Before we get there, it's worth meeting another key figure in the shop, someone who's been by Chad's side long before the television crews showed up. For all the television cameras and big builds, at its core, Chad's operation is still a family business. And one of the most important people in that equation is his son, Colton. Colton isn't Jolene's child. His mother is Carla Mooring, Chad's second wife, but he's been a fixture in the shop for years. In many ways, he's Chad's apprentice, learning the craft firsthand from the man himself. It's not always easy. Chad's tough love approach can be, well, heavy on the tough. But Colton takes it in stride, eager to prove himself in a world where skill matters more than age. Then there's Harley, Chad's daughter with Mandy Mosher. Harley might not be in the shop as often, but she carries her dad's fighter spirit literally. In 2007, she stepped into a boxing ring and walked out a champion at a local tournament. Even with different mothers and complicated family history, Colton and Harley get along well. In fact, the family dynamic is one of the most surprising things about Bad Chad Customs for all of Chad's bad boy image. The shop often feels like a safe haven, where his kids can learn, work, and be part of something bigger. And Jolene, she wasn't just managing the business, she was the glue holding all those moving parts together. Which is why her sudden disappearance from Chad's public life has fans talking. But before we dig into the rumors about Jolene's exit and the possibility that Chad's already remarried, you need to understand the side of Bad Chad. Most people never see the personality that keeps this whole machine running. At first glance, Bad Chad Hiltz looks exactly like the kind of guy his nickname suggests. Sunken eyes, tattoos, a scruffy edge that makes you wonder if you should shake his hand or keep your distance. But step into his shop and you find a completely different story. Chad is, by all accounts, one of the friendliest and most encouraging people you could work with. He's quick to dish out praise when a job is done right, and he's even quicker to push people to dig deeper, think smarter, and work harder. He doesn't just want a team that can build cars, he wants a crew that can think like artists. His work ethic is relentless. He can spend hours welding a single seam to perfection, or tear apart an entire build halfway through because he thinks of a better way to do it. For Chad, it's never been about money, it's about the art of the car. That's why, even with television fame, he still uploads free educational videos to YouTube teaching anyone who's willing to listen how to build with what they have, not what they wish they had. He dreams big, expanding the shop, opening a diner, creating a true automotive hub in Nova Scotia, but always with his family close by. And maybe that's the most surprising thing about him. Beneath the bad boy image is a man who actually values loyalty, teamwork, and passing on his craft. Long before Bad Chad Customs made it to television, Chad had already built something that brought people from all over Nova Scotia together, and it had nothing to do with reality shows or network producers. Since 1998, Chad has hosted Rockabilly Weekend, part music festival, part antique car show, and part full-on celebration of vintage culture. For a few days each year, the quiet grounds of Hiltz Auto Company transform into a time machine. Classic cars line the fields, local and international rockabilly bands keep the air buzzing, and the whole place feels like it's been dropped into the 1950s. It's not just a chance for Chad to show off his own builds, though you can bet some of his wildest creations are on display. It's also a showcase for other builders, a meeting place for car lovers, and a reminder that for Chad, this world isn't just a business, it's a lifestyle. Over the years, Rockabilly Weekend has grown into a must-see event in the Nova Scotia automotive scene. And in many ways, it's the perfect reflection of Chad himself. Loud, colorful, creative, and always just a little bit unpredictable. But as much as he's built his reputation in public, it's his private life that keeps drawing the most attention. And now, with Jolene seemingly out of the picture, the question everyone's asking is back on the table. Did Bad Chad get married again? Which is why his personal relationships matter so much to him and to his fans. So when Jolene's role in the shop suddenly vanished and whispers of a new marriage started circulating, people wanted answers. But before we talk about where his personal life might be now, we need to take a detour into one of the other pillars of the Bad Chad empire, a tradition that's been part of his life long before television ever came calling. Looking at Chad Hiltz's journey, it's clear that Bad Chad is more than a nickname. It's a brand, an attitude, and a story built on resilience. He's taken the kind of life most people would see as a string of dead ends, dropping out of school, being fired from job after job, weathering broken marriages, and turned it into something that millions now watch and admire. From welding in a small garage in Nova Scotia to building award-winning cars that grab global attention, Chad has proven that creativity doesn't require a bottomless bank account, just vision, grit, and the willingness to take risks. His builds aren't just machines, they're statements that beauty can be forged from anything, even what others throw away. And yet, for all the public victories, his personal life remains the part people can't stop talking about. The marriage at 16, the relationships that came and went, the high-profile engagement to Jolene McIntyre. And now, the unanswered question that's been stirring the fan base, has Chad already tied the knot again? Whether that answer comes tomorrow or never, one thing's certain, Bad Chad Hiltz isn't slowing down. In the shop, on the show, or in life, he's still building, still pushing, still refusing to play by anyone else's rules. And maybe that's the real reason the world can't stop watching, because you never know what or who he'll create next. So now it's over to you. What do you think? Is Bad Chad already married again after Jolene, or are the rumors just smoke without fire? And out of all the twists in his life, which surprised you the most, the fights, the builds, or the relationships? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss the next deep dive into the wild lives behind the world's most unforgettable builders.